The 27th Avenue Solid Waste Management Facility, more commonly called the dump, is where our trash goes before being hauled to the landfill and recyclables are sorted. As you might expect, it's loud, messy, and smelly. What you may not expect, it's fertile ground for the imagination. Those who see new possibilities in our discarded material are artists Christine Lee and Ann Morton. Lee and Morton were selected to begin a City of Phoenix Artists in Residence pilot program at this solid waste facility. Scavenging through trash allows them to uncover raw materials and fulfill the mission of the residency: create works of art.
If I find 3 objects, somehow I put those together and they create new meaning.
I'm really valuing these materials, and there's so much potential in everything that we throw away we don't even realize.
This isn't the first time artists have worked here. The design team that planned the facility in 1993 included artist Michael Singer and Lene Glatt. They made public education about recycling a priority. As artists on assignment, Lee and Morton are creating works of art that alter how we view trash and recycling.
Before they dove in and started making work, they had to go through an extensive research period to learn more about waste management within the city and to learn more about the materials that come through.
Another reason these two from the art world are in this world: to spark awareness about the city's Reimagined Phoenix effort to double the diversion rate from 20% to 40% by 2020.
Well, diversion means minimizing the amount of garbage that we take to the landfill and bury.
There's about 1 million tons of trash that come to us through both commercial and residential entities to our disposal facilities, and we end up collecting that or aggregating that at our transfer stations. From those facilities, the trash gets shipped out to our landfill.
To this end, creating art from trash has the ability to inspire us to recycle better.
Right now, there's a lot of contamination currently in our recycling container, which shouldn't be there, as well as there's recyclable material that's in the garbage container that should be in the recycling container.
Christine Lee, trained in woodworking and furniture design, is driven to stretch and refine the use of discarded materials.
The way I look at how we as society work with these materials is that it's really a reflection, this throwaway culture. If I can prove that if you take material that people have completely given up on and you show different ways of reintroducing it back into society, you could do that in many different areas as well too.
Ann Morton specializes in fiber techniques. Her goal? Comment on society through its trash.
When you find something that's been discarded by a human being, it really tells a big story about our broader culture. And so for me, you can think about it as reuse of materials, but we can also think about it in the reuse or reinterpretation of these materials as an artist.
And so their journey began in spring 2016. Collecting material required the right spirit and attire.
I have to be all garbed up, and I just go out on the floor where all the trash is, and it takes me a while. If I first am looking, it just looks like a big mess. But if I give it some time, every day seems to have a theme. One day might be that I'm finding strands, so there might be lots of audio tape that day, or hose. I take these disparate objects that were inspiring to me when I saw it, and my goal is to put them together in an interesting way. What has really captivated me, particularly on this project, are the people who deal with our trash and manage the trash to keep our lives in order. Of course, we all know about our garbage guys that drive the truck and pick up our trash, but once it gets to the transfer facility here, what I didn't realize is that there is a whole team of human beings that sort through our trash.
Immediately, Morton decided thanking these people would be one aspect of her residency. Naming it Rethanks, she invited others to help by creating flowers from recycled trash, each with a thank you note attached.
That whole collection of flowers I see as a giant cascade of trash that's been transformed into expressions of gratitude.
During her searches, Christine Lee looked for patterns.
I was really excited about this opportunity to come and look through all the waste, and especially being able to assess kind of the common things that would come through and then make a determination about which objects I would want to use, and finally thinking about children's plastic play sets as the focus.
Some play sets were perfectly usable and others were really broken up. Her plan showed different ways of reusing the plastic and giving it new life.
I realized that with the broken pieces, there's potential to create new raw material from that by processing it even further. So I started to cut into them and literally separate them into sheets, and found that I could actually break them down with a paper shredder. And the next step would be to try to use them either for potential 3D printing or injection molding. And then on the other end, where the material is still really intact and usable, I've been sketching out different designs for architectural installations. So kind of revisiting it as potential structural material, not just for kids, but for adults.
Lee was still experimenting with the playset's plastic material, but her ideas for transforming it were slowly coming together, like this ladder. Her background in woodworking and design prompted her to add a so-called prosthesis.
I came up with a sketch that would incorporate additional wood elements to be attached to this piece. And in a way, I'm kind of examining it like a doctor, because clearly our patient here has a broken piece right here with this crack. But because I feel that this can still be salvaged, the point of making this structure is so that eventually it can be used as a ladder. So this will be oriented vertically and rest against the wall.
For the gray area between usable and non-usable parts, she envisioned a large architectural structure like a pavilion. Her focus at this point, learn more about the plastic material.
The more time I spend experimenting with the materials, the more ideas that come to my mind for possibilities. And I really want that pavilion to be the finale of all this time that I've spent working with the material and all these ideas, and picking that right one or the series of ideas that work best.
That's what we were really hoping for in the Artist in Residence program, is that there would be that surprise throughout the process.
By now, Ann Morton's Rethanks project to show gratitude to the MRF workers is halfway finished. Her vision of a giant textile made from 3,500 recycled plastic, aluminum, and cardboard flowers received a lot of outside help.
I'm getting people from all over, not just Arizona, to make the flowers. So these are flowers that were just sent to me by one of the makers who's from Washington. See here, this is a plastic flower. So I think this is made out of a peanut butter jar. And thank you for making a difference in our world.
With Rethanks under control, she focused on her personal piece, the one inspired from materials she collected at the dump. This would mesh her fiber techniques and views on society, a series of 12 by 12 panels titled Warning Signals.
They're meant to be kind of graphic in their visual, but they're also incorporating, many of them are incorporating child's toys or clothing.
For some panels, she wove materials like audio tape or electrical wire into a tapestry. Here, strips of cardboard were woven around a child's toy.
Of course, you can see this angry bird, and so this whole idea of anger and the fact that we have this child's game that is called Angry Birds.
By this point, the artist's work had evolved into their final forms, each different than their original ideas. Christine Lee had to tailor her visions of a large architectural structure to suit the installation space outside the Arizona Science Center, which invited the artists to display their works. Instead of building a large architectural structure, she wound up creating these smaller sculptural forms.
I considered this whole installation as one piece, and I titled it Raw Material to have people look at the forms in a different way, not so much as these objects, but uses of the raw material.
The installation may look like simple woven mats, but it's much more. It reveals how materials from the dump can be turned into resources for new products and ideas.
I think when people first approach this installation, the last thing on their mind will be that this came from outdoor molded children's play sets. And that's kind of the exciting kind of grab, because once they're kind of in disbelief, then they'll ask those questions and then realize, no, I really did collect those pieces, cut them on the bandsaw, and then had them ground and then extruded.
Her former patient, the children's playset ladder, and another piece of art show the flip side of her work. Here she kept the integrity of the original material.
The ladder form and then a rocking form that I have on display there are more examples of less invasive ways to use the material. I cut up one of the pieces, and the other piece I did not cut into the plastic, just to kind of show these different levels of manipulation that I was thinking about as I approached the material itself.
For Ann Morton, limited space also altered her initial vision for the look of the Rethanks piece.
Originally, it was going to be very tall and skinny and long. I hope that you get that feeling of the MRF and that endless conveyor belt of trash that just keeps going and keeps coming and coming.
The look may have changed, but Ann's desire for people to express gratitude for the MRF workers was still just as strong.
I hope they see the beauty in it. Hopefully they'll see it a little bit closer and realize that beauty is coming from trash. But I do hope that people stop and read, and if they start to notice Rethanks or the thank you notes, and they start seeing all these thank you notes, they'll be curious about, well, what does that mean? What are the thank you notes about? And they'll find out that all of this is an act of gratitude towards the people that keep our lives in order every single day by sorting through all of our trash.
Morton's personal piece, her series of panels titled Warning Signals, stayed true to her commentary on culture and society when it comes to what people throw away.
Well, I think there's just so much humanity in what we discard, and I think that's what I hope. The warning signals really speak to the items that we buy for our children and the messages that sends to our children. So I hope that message comes away. They appear to be really fun and kind of crazy because they've got children's toys incorporated into them. But as you look at them and you think about them, hopefully some of that message comes through.
At the end of their residency at the dump, both artists have a renewed appreciation for discarded items, but hope people will work harder to recycle and reuse. Morton wants the public to reconsider items they would normally just throw away. For Lee, the possibilities for reuse are limitless.
Maybe people will be excited about, the possibilities of, making your own new raw material, and it might push them to, kind of take it upon themselves to try out something different.
Hopefully this gives that feeling to people when they see, when you realize that all of this material would go to the trash. We're throwing away. We think it's away, it's not away. It ends up with somebody having to sort through it, and then at the end of the day it lands in the landfill, and that affects all of us. We can only have so much space for that.
Thanks to Christine Lee and Ann Morton, the first Artist in Residency program at the 27th Avenue Solid Waste Management Facility was a success. They fulfilled the mission by reimagining trash and creating works of art. Now it's up to us to increase our recycling efforts and fulfill the city's Reimagine Phoenix mission to keep more trash from the landfills and double the diversion rate from 20% to 40% by 2020.